This week on Checkpoint.
Ukul.
He died fighting for benefits he'd been contributing towards for years.
Because mina kufanele ngithole is 75% yomholo wami.
Rogue employers.
Into ngimsebenza la my sister akanamsebenzi nabasebenzi bakhe. Akakhathali ukuthi umsebenzi wakhe uphila kanjani the way amtreata ngakhona. Into engayijabulela kuye ukuthi akhe afile ukuthi nathi sibantu siyasebenza sinazo indingo zempilo. Yonke lento eyenzakalayo abhadala imali yethu ibe khona le siyazi ukuthi nathi siyakhululeka emoyeni.
We have cases, I think it's already 6 of those cases that are on execution case stage.
Right, so can I be go fitlhela yaanong re tla go find out gore provident fund ga isa ga go sa contribute then mo go rona ya go giwa mo go rona ba re gona 326 rand 82 cents every month.
It's Checkpoint, and I'm Ngepile Mabuse. Imagine having money deducted from your salary for years, thinking it will be made available when you most need it, only to die having not seen a cent. This is exactly what happened to Calvin Mthethwa. He and others featured in this week's episode accuse their employers of unjust labor practices. Jabulile Mbata and Ashley Market investigate.
When we first met Calvin Mthethwa, he was gravely ill and totally dependent on his son to look after him. Doctors had given him a few months to live. Mthethwa had stage 4 liver cancer that had spread to the rest of his body, literally eating him alive. This is the uniform he would wear to Continental Engineering, where he worked for 13 years.
Ngafanele umlungu wami matishi phela lapha kunalenkinga but terminal liver cancer. So yini ifunakalayo vela ukuthi ngilungisa lezi zinto amaphepha yini whatever.
Weak and unable to continue working, he wanted to claim for disability from the Metal Industries Benefit Administrators or MIBFA and illness leave from the Unemployment Insurance Fund or UIF. Mthethwa was entitled to a monthly disability income equal to 75% of his salary. Continental Engineering deducted different amounts every month, which Mthethwa believed were his contributions to MIBFA, a fund set up to ensure he's covered under these circumstances. But every time he inquired about his benefits, he says he struggled to get straight answers from his manager, Claude Watson.
But ngicela ngibona ukuthi kuninto ingekho right lapho. But angasangiphenduli. Uyabona? Angisanderstand ukuthi why yena ebeka lapho.
He desperately needed his claim form signed.
So I don't know about lawyer yini. Yeah, inkinga iqala ikhona lapho vele kumaphepha la. Athi ngaphandle kwaloko phela mina ngibona ukuthi kuyiproblem lokho. Wena mangabe lezi zinto zi-right, wena wasayina wanginika.
Mthethwa says his manager instructed him to return to work despite being terminally ill.
In fact, vele noma siyabile isikhathi ukuthi ngimexplain. Bengihamba ngiyosebenza. Bengiye ngiyosebenza.
Ukul.
He worked until it was practically impossible.
I can't even stand. I've got that feeling. You see, sometimes I'm going down like to use the bucket. Yeah, because it feels like I want to throw.
When Claude Watson finally completed the documentation for his claims, Mthethwa received shocking news from the disability scheme. Their response reads, "We advise that our records have revealed that you were not a contributing member of the scheme at the date of disablement."
kakhulu imali engiyifunela lokho. Sengisitake lawyer usevarsity ingane yawo yokudeni lo mfana Alfred. Funeka ngimba sisemanje sengiyakolota futhi already. Fanele isikolweni.
He says when he inquired with MIPFA, he was told that the last contribution received from Continental Engineering on his behalf was in 2017. For 4 years, his employer deducted contributions that were never paid to the fund.
Mina ngisitaki especially party awazi ukuthi bangenza. There's no way forward. Into bayenza especially ukuthi mina ukuthi kubhlungu la banginike into okufana lokho. But kubhlungu la banginika umlungu wami yiyo le nizwayo angabhatali le mali and nakhona angasho orang nike leyo ikhona ephapheni kuthi mina kufanele ngithole i75% yomholo wami as like umsebenzi ngibathini disability fund he has to pay kufanele umthetho usho lokho metal industry beneficiary.
On the 23rd of June, Calvin Mthethwa passed away. Having not received a single cent of the money deducted from his salary over 10 years. Pension fund adjudicator Mubango Lukaimane says it is the responsibility of the funds to ensure employers comply. Her office is responsible for resolving disputes over the non-payment of pension and provident funds.
In fact, the board of trustees of a pension fund is required in terms of the Act to chase after outstanding contributions. So once contributions don't come in, the board must act. They must find out from the employer why contributions have not been paid and demand that such contributions be paid immediately.
In written responses, Mthethwa's former employer at Continental Engineering, Claude Watson, denied forcing Mthethwa to work while ill, saying the employer was not made aware of the seriousness of the employee's condition, other than being absent from work for days at a time and by means of WhatsApp messages stating that he is at either hospital or clinic for test. Days that has been taken was often done without submitting a sick note. The employer paid the employee full wages during these off days without deducting any monies for being absent. Employee was sent home by employer on a few occasions when it was noticed that employee was not feeling well. After numerous requests, official letter from doctor was received in May 2021. Regarding Continental Engineering's alleged failure to contribute to the Metal Industries Benefit Fund's administrators, Watson wrote, employee was part of MIPFA from August 2011 when it became compulsory to join. Payments was made during this period. When asked about money owed to the Provident Fund for outstanding payments over the years, his response was, this matter is currently being attended to and investigated by MIPFA and employers' organizations' lawyers, as we are having a difficult time to solve this, as every time we are being sent to another person to solve our queries. This matter has been going on for quite some time, as discrepancies was found in unallocated payments, etc. A very long paper trail has developed over some time in order for the employers' organization to solve this matter.
Coming up, he's been defaulting on Provident Fund payments for 4 years and seems to have gotten away with it.
We have cases, I think it's already 6 of those cases that are on execution case stage.
Roddy Mudaka is a former employee of Shell Motors in Boksburg. He'd been working there as a cashier for 7 years. He says a conversation with his brother about the Auto Workers and Motor Industry Provident Fund, to which they belonged, led him to the realization that he was being robbed.
So anivutisa ku wena wa swi kuma na, then ku hayikho. So hi kona ni nga sungula ku lavisisa na mina, ni sungula ku vulavula na vanhu lava ni tirhaka na vona, hi famba hi ya cheka aka laha ku hini hi swi kuma kona statement. Hi kona hi nga kuma ku mali ya kona a yi depositiwi every time, a yi kumeki every day.
In the year 2017, Mudaka and his colleagues inquired with the fund and received statements revealing their employer, Elvis Ratau, had stopped contributing that year.
Loko ni swi kuma a swi khomangi kahle because a no tibyela nga ku se u tirhela mahala every day, so swa discourage na continue hi kha hi tirhela munhu kha swi tiva ku mali a yi kumekeni hinkwayo loko dyiweni.
The workers confronted Ratau.
So a yi tshembisa ku fike na laha nga yi tshembisa a ku mali u ta yi hakela hi nkarhi wa so. I think it was 2018 by December u yi tshembise ku ta hakela mali hinkwayo with interest.
Employees received this admission of guilt letter from Ratau. I, the director of Shell Boksburg Motors, hereby promise that all provident funds due to MIPCO will be paid in full by the end of December 2018. MIPCO is the Motor Industry Bargaining Council whose agreement with employers made it mandatory for employers and employees to contribute to the Auto Workers and Motor Industry Provident Fund. Despite promising to correct his wrong, Ratau continued to deduct Provident Fund contributions from his employees while defaulting on his payments to the fund.
The reason la nga hi nyika yona ku fanekerini a yi deducta as a business, a nga yi byelangi deeper ku why, but he said he have to. So even though loko hi n'wi vutisa hi ndlela yaleyo a swi koteki ku i tshika u nga yi teki na, a ku hayi a swi koteki. So ku wena a swi vona ku swi ta antswa loko ku ri wena a wu nga yi teki hi ku swa fana ku mali leyi a wu yi deduct, I mean a wu yi yisi leyi. Ai the reason leti a hi byelaka tona ntsena ku business a yi fambi kahle, but a swi tshembisi because na nkarhi lowun'wana endzhaku I think business a yi famba kahle a nga hakeli, but now a tirhisa excuse yo just because of the corona of COVID now. So now always u tirhisa that excuse even though there was no corona, but a nga ri ku hakeleni.
Fed up, this year Mudaka called it quits. He believes Ratau was deducting the money for his own benefit.
Mali liyani wa yi enjoy yena because na sweswi even though a ku a nga na mali u ta n'wi vona ku u hanya vutomi bya kahle u cinca timovha.
He hopes to be compensated for the years his employer failed to contribute to the fund. This petrol attendant still works at Boksburg Shell Motors. He says he cannot leave because he doesn't have other options of employment.
Isimo South Africa no ngumsebenzi inkinga. Ngina-matric, yes, but I don't have any other qualification. But ayikho enye indlela ngizamile ukuthi ngathi ngamakethe eminye imisebenzi. Akukho simple ukuthi uthole umsebenzi esikhathini samanje la eSouth Africa.
They tried getting help from the Motor Industry Bargaining Council.
Emipho saya emipho masita sabatshela ukuthi into esoso niyayazi na beza nabo lena it's 4 years back emipho bathatha ama slip weight bathatha everything yethu ukuthi no i case lay on into ezinjalo. Since then asange sisole feedback ukuthi kwenzakala.
He used to wear his uniform with pride, but it's now become a symbol of disappointment.
Umuntu ongimsebenza la my sister akanamsebenzi nabasebenzi bakhe akakhathali ukuthi umsebenzi wakhe uphila kanjani. Into ongayijabulela kuye ukuthi akhe afile ukuthi nathi sibantu siyasebenza sinazo indingo zempilo. Yonke lento eyenzakalayo abhadala imali yethu.
Pension fund adjudicator Mubango Lukhaimani says that Motor Industry Bargaining Council, MIPCO, is obliged to resolve such disputes in their sector.
The regulator again has granted them, in terms of the Act, the authority to, the bargaining council, the authority to resolve the issue with outstanding contributions. If such a complaint comes to us, we will then deal with other aspects of the complaint, but for the outstanding contributions, we are actually obliged to refer it to the bargaining council to resolve.
It's a criminal offence for employers to deduct contributions and fail to pay them to the funds. Employees have the right to press charges.
The Act makes it the responsibility of the board to go and for the fees that they get paid, for the time that they say they are spending on the fund administration. That is exactly what they should be doing. So it shouldn't actually fall onto the individual employee. Because what also happens when an individual employee complains is sometimes by the time we complete our investigation, if that person is still in employment and is saying, I discovered that the employer was not paying, and then I just want to know whether the employer is paying. By the time we complete that and resolve that complaint, the employer would have dismissed that employee.
Checkpoint called Alvis Ratau to request an interview regarding the allegations made against him. He told us he needed Shell's permission to speak to us.
Media, you cannot just come and talk to me being a media. You took me, then you want to talk to me without me knowing what's going on. Because I have to report this.
But that's why we're giving you the right of reply.
We emailed Shell, and Media Relations Officer Dineo Poe distanced the company from Ratau, saying, "Please note that our retailers are independent operators whose business relationship is governed by a business contract with Shell. As such, Shell is not involved in the daily running of their operations. As business operators, retailers are required to comply with all applicable legislation related to their business activities, in this instance, labor laws, employer-employee issues. As an organization, Shell expects all of its employees, contractors and partners, which includes retailers, to comply with Shell's general business principles and core values, which are based on honesty, integrity and respect for people. These values promote pride in what Shell does and how it conducts business." The Motor Industry Bargaining Council told Checkpoint Alvis Ratau is a repeat offender who has been defaulting since 2016. He is, according to the council, 800,000 rand in arrears. So why has he not been brought to book, we asked.
We have cases, I think it's already 6 of those cases that are on execution stage. Tariff receiving their instruction simply means that they are in the process of debt attachment and selling in execution. When we sell the assets, if we do find the assets, is so that the proceeds that we receive from the auction are going for or in favor of these employees. It doesn't matter whether the employee is still employed or has left the employer. At the end of the day, that employee is still entitled to his benefits.
Next, the private security industry fingered as most guilty.
And if you look at who's not paying them, it's your parastatals are not paying the security companies. It's your government departments, they are not paying the security companies.
In Sunnishof, a small village in the northwest province, this Tsiriletso professional services employee guards a sewage treatment plant near an open recycling dump in the area. He has no guardroom for shelter, no toilet or water at his workplace. His biggest concern, however, is that deductions being made from his salary are not going where they should.
Go fitlhela yaanong re tla go find out gore provident fund ga go sa contributiwa and mo go rona ya gogiwa mo go rona ba re gogela 326.82 rand every month. Di bile for 16 months.
He says employees took this up with management and were told that the company had an agreement with the Provident Fund to no longer contribute. When they refused to accept this explanation, they were allegedly threatened with unemployment.
Re ile makwalo gore contract ya fela ka di 31 May.
They feared taking further action against their boss.
Ho ke sa bueng ke gore mo company ya rona management wa rona mo basebetsing o ba tshosetsa. That's why batho ba rona ba nnang ba tshabang go bua ke go tshosediwa. Because ba itse gore o batla mmereko go thata yang go setse o greatly so motho a tshwantse a bua bothata ba gagwe o naganela gore ke tle go lelekiwa.
He says job opportunities in the area are limited, so leaving Tsireletso Professional Services is not an option. According to Mubango Lughaimane, 70% of their workload constitutes complaints about employers not paying contributions. Of that 70%, most grievances emanate from the private security industry.
They can't pay, or they'll say they can't pay if their services have not been paid for. And if you look at who's not paying them, it's your parastatals are not paying the security companies. It's your government departments, they are not paying the security companies. So already the employer must go find money somewhere to pay the employees their salaries, and then they are unable to pay all these other statutory obligations that they must pay.
We called the owner of Tsireletso Professional Services, Cynthia Motupi, and her attorney responded in writing saying, "Our client notes the concerns raised in your email and has undertaken to investigate. Unfortunately, she is not able to participate in any interview at this stage."
If those placed in a position to hold employers to account were doing their job, fewer companies would cut corners and fewer employees would experience the sad end that was Mthethwa's. Thanks for watching Checkpoint. I'm Ngepile Mabuse.